It's the hardest thing in the world for a man to do, to admit we're scared, that we need help. All the more reason to admire the courage of the men in this story. Among them, footballer Matt Rogers, who lost his father Steve to depression earlier this year. And the Rogers family isn't alone. 1 in 4 Australians will suffer from depression. 5 Australian men take their own lives every day. 5 suicides a day. But there is good news. Scientists now say they've isolated the gene that actually causes depression. And there's a bold new prevention program aimed where it can do the most good, at the most vulnerable, our teenage kids.
It's dredging itself stupid out the alley.
Looks fun.
It's inside out.
Nice.
Here at Sydney's Cronulla Beach, Matt Rogers is a familiar face. He's a local boy made good, famous as a dual football international, representing Australia in both rugby league and rugby union. But right now, he's bearing the grief of every son who loses his dad.
He was a great man to be around. He was great fun. Behind the scenes, obviously had some pretty horrific inner demons that were sort of plaguing him, and he felt he couldn't really talk about them.
Rogers involves himself.
Matt's father, Steve Rogers, was also a sporting legend. A hard man of rugby league with a natural gift for the game. But he harboured a dark secret that finally overcame him.
Rogers straight through, beautiful.
I sort of grab him and hug him and say, everything will be all right. You're Steve Rogers. What are you talking about? And he was always like that to us as kids. He was Superman. He was unbreakable.
In January this year, at the age of 51, Steve Rogers, the unbreakable man of league, crumbled. He took his own life after years of battling the demons of depression.
My fondest memories as a child are of me laying on the lounge with Dad, watching telly together. And he would stroke my hair when I'd fall asleep in his arms. He'd pick me up and carry me to bed. He'd make me feel so safe.
Matt was extremely close to his father, but even he was unaware of the depth of his despair.
Unfortunately, Dad probably came from that era where his problems were his problems and no one else was going to help him with them. He had to deal with them.
It's an all too common story. Up to 1 in 4 Australians now suffer depression. It's been described as an epidemic of mental illness. And it's men like Steve Rogers who are often in the eye of the storm. Suicide occurs most frequently in middle-aged men. Men who, from an early age, have been conditioned to tough it out, no matter what.
If you ask people what makes a satisfying day, you ask people what makes a satisfying life, it turns out they're totally different.
Depression is a problem on a global scale. But one of the worldwide leaders in the field, Professor Martin Seligman, has brought to Australia what he believes may be an answer by focusing on prevention rather than cure.
We get lost in middle age, and if we're a testosterone-loaded independent man, it's very hard to say, help me, I'm lost, I need love, I need help. And given that we know the rate of depression in middle-aged men today is very high, if you bring that face-to-face with the inability to ask for help, then you've got a recipe for suicide.
It's my very difficult duty to inform you today that I'm currently being treated for depression.
In January this year, West Australian Premier Jeff Gallop shocked the nation when he resigned to fight his battle with what Winston Churchill famously called the Black Dog.
It has certainly affected many aspects of my life, so much so that I sought expert help last week.
I see politicians at departure lounges in airports who are dead from the inside out because that's all there is in their life, that's all there is in their world, and it kills people slowly.
Simon Corbell knows all too well the pressures that drove Jeff Gallop to seek help. He's the ACT's health minister, but 18 months ago, his depression caused a complete mental and physical breakdown, and he walked away from the job for 3 months.
I was in bed, 48 hours straight, in bed, sleeping, not wanting to engage with the world, not wanting to talk to anyone. And emotionally, I was cranky, angry, defensive, withdrawn, prone to, increasingly irrational. All of these things were building up, so it was a physical and it was an emotional thing.
Today, Simon Corbell is healthy from the inside out. But take a look at him in the depths of his illness. Even he admits he was a mess and not far from becoming another statistic himself.
I certainly knew that things couldn't go on, but my partner at the time, she said to me, you need to stop, you need to take a break, otherwise you're going to do something really silly. You're going to kill yourself, you're going to try to kill yourself, you're going to do something very, very dangerous and very hurtful that you don't want to do.
It was as stark as that.
It was, absolutely. It was a very, very frightening time.
For Steve Rogers, the downward spiral began with the loss of his first wife, Carol, to cancer 4 years ago.
From that point on, Dad was a different person. And just totally different. He still showed sparks of his old self, but, in a quiet time, we'd have so many chats and all he'd ever say to me is how much he missed Mum. We'd cry together about it. And he'd just tell me how much he missed Mum, That was just his soulmate was gone.
And what did you see in his behaviour over those years, how he changed? You say he lost his spark.
He just seemed angry at the world, like the world had robbed him of something, in a way it had. And he was pretty bitter about it, about losing Mum, and he just felt, why did it have to happen to him, I guess.
Steve Rogers was found dead outside his Cronulla apartment on January 3rd. He'd taken an overdose.
As you could probably imagine, my phone sort of rang, sort of red hot for the entire day, and didn't sort of take any calls. And then checked my whole message bank, and it was full. There was like 20 messages on it, and the last message was his message on the 2nd, just saying, "Hey Matty, it's just Dad, mate. Just really wanted to talk to you. Love you. Have a good year." And that was the message. So, if I could have taken that call, who knows? So.
Teaching kids optimism lowers their risk for depression.
Here at Geelong Grammar, they're attempting a world first in depression treatment.
To me, and if they score in the bottom quartile,
Martin Seligman's techniques of positive reinforcement are being used to set up a wellbeing centre for students. The idea is to provide young people with the mental armour against depression in later life.
We now have evidence that therapy may not be the best answer, that if we do prevention in the schools, on websites, on television, we make these simple working on strengths accessible to the general population, we can cut the probability of depression. I don't want to go as far as say end the epidemic, but I think we've got very good reason to think we can make major inroads into it preventatively that we cannot do therapeutically.
The first onset of depression used to be seen in 30-year-olds. Now it's arising in children as young as 13.
I think that everybody will seriously benefit and will be able to draw on what they learnt there later on in life, if not now.
So perhaps we won't have the epidemic later in life if we get to the young people.
Well, hopefully, yeah.
Mitch Bailey was struck down by depression at the age of 42. He believes Martin Seligman's positive psychology techniques saved his life.
Oh, absolutely. Look, I've re-engaged with people. I mean, look, in my acute stage or even in the early stages of depression, there's no way I could sit down and talk to you. There's no way I could sit down. I was a complete nervous wreck.
So these are the spoils of years on the road with Don Burke. Oh, Mitch was the man behind the camera on Burke's backyard.
Have you heard anyone call him nice before?
But a relationship breakup sent him into a downward spiral that only ended when he attempted suicide.
You're just in another world. You're the living dead. You're just walking around like a corpse. You know you're going to die soon, and you just want it to happen as soon as possible because there is no future. It's not cancer where they can treat with chemotherapy. It's not a broken arm which you can put into a sling. It is your mind, and your mind is actively destroying you. So you have to turn your mind around to positive thoughts. And those positive thoughts, if they don't get in, well, then you're finished.
Is there only one given out a day, is there?
New Australian research has, for the first time, identified the gene which causes depression. It may be that the illness is passed from one generation to the next. In Matt Rogers' case, both his uncle and his father have taken their own lives.
You're very much like father, like son. Both international footballers, gifted with a magnificent sporting ability. Are you worried about other similarities?
Yeah, absolutely.
Depression?
Yep, 100%. You know, I just look, it scares me, to be honest. Like, it really scares me. There's no two ways about it. There's times, you know, that I've sat back and wondered, you know, am I depressed or am I just sad? I think I'm just sad at the moment. I'm sure I'm just sad at the moment. I mean, my kids, you know, they bring too much to my life to be depressed about. You know, I mean,
Do you want to have a shower, no?
you know, I've got Chloe and the kids and another baby on the way, which makes, you know, I've got a lot to live for and a lot to smile about.
Depression is looming as one of the biggest medical disasters of this century. It's estimated that in 20 years it will be second only to heart disease as our national killer. The best ways to combat it is also one of the simplest. Be brave, ask for help.
When I look at myself today, I think, I'm glad I've been on that journey. I feel so much better for it physically and emotionally. I look after myself, I exercise, and I have time outside of my professional career. And it's a far more fulfilling and enjoyable life, and that's the challenge.
You just need to speak to people about it. It's just not... It's not fair that you have to deal with all the problems on your own. There's other people there that'll help you. There's other people there that you can speak to. You know, and love's a pretty strong emotion, and you know, if somebody loves you, they'll do anything for you. And all you got to do is open your mouth and tell them. Tell them how you feel. Don't let it control your life.
Hello, I'm Sarah Abo. Thanks for watching 60 Minutes Australia. Subscribe to our channel now for brand new stories and exclusive clips every week. And don't miss out on our Extra Minutes segments and full episodes of 60 Minutes on 9now.com.au and the 9Now app.